Let us pray. God of all space and time, we give you thanks for this day, part of the rich history of Carthage College, in which we celebrate the beginning of the presidency of John Swallow. Bless us this day with your presence. Grant President Swallow full measures of wisdom, perseverance, compassion, and vision to lead this community into the future. Use each one of us gathered here to support his call to lead. Guide us in creating an environment of discovery for all students, faculty, and staff who share their gifts in this place. We give you thanks for the community of Kenosha and the surrounding areas that, working in partnership with Carthage, enables collaborations where innovations in learning can take place. Grant that all the work we do here is done in a spirit of creating a world where people can thrive. Grant that all the work done here is motivated by the desire of the common good of all people. Delighted and dismayed by the mysteries of this world, grant us, O God, that we may be continued to be driven to ask questions, to seek information, and to apply learning that makes a world more caring and peaceful. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Carthage Board of Trustees, welcome to the inauguration of Dr. John R. Swallow as the 23rd president of Carthage College. We are overjoyed to have so many of you here to join us for the historic event. We are privileged to have many distinguished guests with us this afternoon. I'm honored to recognize my fellow trustees of the Carthage Board, my colleagues on the Carthage faculty and staff, and members of the President's Leadership Council who are here with us today. Carthage would not exist if not for our partnership with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and its predecessor bodies. Welcome to our delegates from the ELCA. We are honored to have representatives from colleges, universities, and learned societies from around the country here with us to celebrate. To our academic delegates, we hope that you enjoy your day on our beautiful campus. At Carthage, we are proud of our strong and meaningful relationship with our neighbors in Kenosha, Racine, and southeastern Wisconsin. We are pleased to welcome so many leaders from our surrounding community and the state. 8 decades of Carthage presidential leadership are represented here today. We are blessed to welcome past President Greg and Penny Woodward, President Emeritus F. Gregory and Barbara Campbell, Irma Anderson, the wife of President Alan Anderson, and their daughter Jolene and grandson Eric, Tom Lentz, son of President Harold Lentz and Tom's son TJ, and Bill Wittig, son-in-law of President Erland Nelson and Erland's granddaughter Linda. President Erno Dahl and his wife Suzanne were unable to be here today, but they send their warmest regards. And we extend to each of you our special gratitude for the many gifts you shared with Carthage over so many years. I would also like to extend a special welcome to Carthage students and their families. You are what we are most proud of at Carthage. And we're especially proud to introduce Cameron Swallow. Like her husband, Cameron is a passionate educator, and I might add a talented and entertaining singer as well. And she taught middle and high school math and English for 20 years. She's also a lifelong learner who has embraced our community with fervor. Not only did she sign up for a Spanish class her very first semester at Carthage, Cameron has kicked off an ambitious project to get to know her new home through the students, faculty, and staff who love it here. Her Welcome Home Tour, as she named it, has already created new connections among Carthaginians and community members. She recognizes the leadership role Carthage plays in southeastern Wisconsin, and she is already nurturing relationships that will strengthen both our college and our community. And I'm also happy to report that she survived her very first winter in Wisconsin, thanks to a bright red, I might add Carthage red, winter parka. Cameron, thank you for bringing such warmth to the college. We're honored to welcome John Swallow's parents, Richard and Carolyn Swallow, Cameron Swallow's parents, Tom and Cecilia Wallace, and members of their family. Joining the Swallows to be with their parents on this joyous occasion are their two children, Bard and Sophie. We are all here today to celebrate the installation of Carthage's newest president and to begin the next chapter in Carthage's rich history. 171 years ago, Lutheran pioneers founded a small college in Hillsborough, Illinois. This was the beginning of Carthage. In 1852, the college moved to Springfield, Illinois. Abraham Lincoln, one of this nation's great learners and leaders, served on the college's board of trustees. In 1870, the college was reborn in Carthage, Illinois, acquiring its current name and building the foundation on which we stand today. In 1962, Carthage leaders made a bold decision to move the college to Kenosha, Wisconsin. There were challenges, no question. Bold moves are rarely easy. But through generations of visionary leadership, the hard work of our faculty and staff, and a steadfast devotion to our mission, Carthage is stronger than ever. At Carthage, we are innovative. We are researchers, explorers, and inventors. We discover new dinosaur species and new technologies to advance space travel. We build bridges between Carthage and the communities around us. We are global. Carthage is ranked number 5 in the nation for student participation in short-term study abroad. Over the past 4 years, nearly 1,400 students have traveled to 27 different countries. Almost 400 students studied abroad this January alone. We have been named the top Fulbright producer for 3 straight years. Carthage is the only school in Wisconsin on this year's impressive list. 6 Carthage students have already been selected as Fulbright Fellows for the academic year ahead. Carthage has been breaking the mold of liberal arts colleges since 1870, when we enrolled women decades ahead of our peers, and again in the 1960s, when college leadership saw a tremendous opportunity in this beautiful lakefront property in one of the most active economic corridors in the United States. Prospective families recognize this. We've already received a record number of applications for the fall 2018 freshman class. Here at Carthage, guided by our Lutheran heritage, we work every day with the mission to build strength in our students, guide them in their search for truth, and instill in them a drive to serve. Today is a momentous occasion. Today we reflect on our miraculous past and celebrate the exciting new beginning. Thank you for joining us as we inaugurate our newest leader. We're very glad that you're here. I am now pleased to introduce our next three speakers. Elena Ignacio speaking on behalf of the student body, Leslie Cameron speaking on behalf of the faculty and staff, and Hoyt Harper speaking on behalf of our alumni. Elena is a member of the Carthage class of 2018 and president of the Carthage Student Government. Dr. Cameron leads the Psychological Sciences Department at Carthage, and Hoyt Harper graduated from Carthage in 1977 and is a member of the Carthage College Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Hamar. I am so honored to be here today to speak on behalf of the Carthage student body. And President Swallow, I am thrilled to be up here officially welcoming you as our 23rd president. It has been such a pleasure to work with you in so many different capacities this year. Like a lot of Carthage students, I first met President Swallow back in September during move-in weekend. We had all read about him and heard that he was already on campus and living in Denhart Hall. But he was not what we were expecting. During orientation weekend, he was on campus drive, casually helping students move their things into the residence halls. My friend, who was an orientation leader, assumed that President Swallow was just another dad. A very concerned dad, helping everyone else's kids move in. There were a lot of comments like, "Is that the president?" And "That can't be the president. He's not in a suit." Everyone was just taken aback by how down-to-earth he was, how calm, how approachable. Since that day, President Swallow continues to be a positive presence on campus. We see him strolling down Campus Drive and talking with students. He's always smiling. We see him attending Carthage theater, music, and athletic events with his wife, Cameron. He is visible and actively engaged in the Carthage community and in student life. We know he's here, but more importantly, he knows we're here. He values our opinions. He has reached out to student government and other student organizations to learn about the work we do and what we are passionate about. I've worked a lot with him through student government. I feel that he values student government's presence, and that is really important. When you're an organization that represents students, it's important to know that the president wants that connection. He has been a very vocal advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion at Carthage. He has fostered conversations about student experiences and brought challenging issues right to the table, so we could discuss them together as a community. In doing these things, he has reaffirmed Carthage's values, emphasized the need for engagement from the administration, and pushed for even more collaboration among students, faculty, and staff. I'm glad I've had the opportunity as student government president to be able to work with him. Graduation is a month away, and I'm still in shock that I'm going to be the first in my family to graduate from college. As I leave Carthage, I'm excited for what is to come, and I'm honored to be a part of President Swallow's first graduating class. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and good afternoon. On behalf of the Carthage faculty and staff, it's my honor to welcome Dr. John Swallow to our community. You may know that in addition to welcoming John as our 23rd president, we also welcome him as a member of our faculty. And when we hire faculty at Carthage, we look for a variety of characteristics, a fit with our identity and mission. So, what are these characteristics and how does John demonstrate them? Well, my colleague Bob Molesky often repeats the mantra that college faculty and staff are a group of people who are united in a common concern about parking. But John can walk to work, so maybe that isn't where the sweet spot is. To be serious, we look for people with dedication and passion, people who are community-minded, people who will join in campus service projects, attend sporting events and plays, or even organize trips to Stratford. We've already seen John and his wife Cameron immersing themselves into our community. We look for people with broad interests. On our faculty, you will find colleagues whose individual interests span, for example, from the paintings of Jan Bruegel the Elder to the laws of thermodynamics, as varied as John's interests in algebraic number theory and the writings of Henry James. We look for people who can wear many hats. Most of us are teachers and researchers, committee members and advisors, champions of the liberal arts, as well as deeply committed to our disciplines. We know that John, who is referred to as the deputy mayor of Swanee, is a man who knows how to wear many hats. We look for people with a commitment to students and their success, people who are scholarly about and think deeply about their teaching, who spend their weekends grading papers and Januaries taking students to Paris or darkest Peru. People who spend hours writing letters of recommendation and helping students find internships. More than ever, we're building a culture of teacher scholars. We have many faculty who are excellent teachers and scholars, as John was an award-winning teacher and scholar of mathematics for 17 years at Davidson College. So I would say, in Dr. Swallow, we have found a faculty member who's an excellent fit and really a kindred spirit. And I think I knew that the first time I met him. I was part of his transition team, and we met with him exactly once. Excellent. In that meeting, he impressed me in two ways. First, after being on campus for only a few weeks, he was able to distill the state of the college in 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. Immediately, I knew he was smart and a quick study. Second, the meeting was scheduled for an hour and a half. But about an hour in, John said, "Well, that's all I have. I'm not one for meeting for the sake of meeting." Wait, what? I don't think I'd ever been in a meeting at Carthage that ended early. So though I recognize that Carthage faculty and staff may be united by our concern about parking, I think we might also be a group of people who are united in their common concern of long meetings. So President Swallow, in addition to sharing with you our love of our work as teacher scholars and this institution, we look forward to sharing with you many years of short meetings. Welcome to Carthage.
Thank you, Dr. Cameron. Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today to welcome Dr. Swallow on behalf of Carthage alumni. My father was a professor in the University of Wisconsin system, and he wanted me to attend the University of Wisconsin in Madison. That's why I chose Carthage. Well, that plus Augie Schmidt, the baseball coach, said he needed a new first baseman. It's safe to say I chose Carthage for the wrong reasons, but I stayed for the right reasons. What I found here, and what I hope Dr. Swallow comes to know, is that this place is built on the passions of people. The people here, the staff, the faculty, students, and yes, the alumni, love this place, and we now entrust it to you. I'm a proud member of the class of 1977, but I also have the privilege of serving on Carthage's Board of Trustees. It is in my role as a board member that brings me back to campus 3 or 4 times a year, and I'm amazed at how the college continues to evolve. Sure, there are new buildings. Carthage has invested over $250 million on facilities since 1999. But it's not just the buildings. It's the students and their experiences that have made this transformation so distinctive. Back in 1977, I was one of 1,250 students. Today, we're more than 2,600 students, and we are more diverse, more global than ever before. We compete with students from the country's top universities in Model UN, mock trial, Fulbright scholars, research grants, and NASA. And we just don't compete, we win. We accomplish things that are bigger than us. As Jeff mentioned, Carthage ranks 5th in the country for students participating in short-term study abroad. This is exciting because not only do our students get to travel internationally, but international companies are coming here. And those companies want a well-educated workforce, graduates with a broad, diverse, and inclusive experience. John Swallow started college at age 15. He's an accomplished mathematician, English scholar, and musician. Anyone who has spent time with him knows that he is thoughtful, responsive, and passionate about making a difference. And he's proven himself to be a student of Carthage, its history and its promise. He's already shown that he has the desire and vision to make Carthage an integral part of the economic and social landscape of southeastern Wisconsin. This is the most exciting time in Carthage's history, and we needed a new leader who will continue to raise Carthage's prominence and inspire everyone in the Carthage community. I wholeheartedly believe that John Swallow is the right person to take Carthage to new heights. President Swallow, on behalf of the Carthage alumni, welcome.
Thank you, Elena, Leslie, and Hoyt, and members of the Carthage Choir. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. John McArdle, Jr. John McArdle, Jr. is President and Vice Chancellor at the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee, where President Swallow was a trustee, regent, senior administrator, and faculty member. After many years on the history faculty of Middlebury College, he served as Middlebury's president from 1992 until 2004. Considered a national leader in liberal arts education, President McArdle is a past chair of the board of the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. He has a PhD in history from Harvard University. In 2012, President McArdle boldly selected John Swallow, then a Sewanee graduate and board member who had not yet ever served in any administrative position, to be provost and chief operating officer. His confidence and support of John and the daily example he set of a visionary and creative president enabled John's development as a manager and leader. John is extraordinarily grateful for the several years the two of them worked so closely together, and is deeply honored that President McArdle and his wife Bonnie can share in this ceremony. Please join me in welcoming President McArdle.
As enthusiastic as I am to offer these remarks, and I promise you that I will, a musical interlude will precede them, and I'm pleased first to introduce that.
Sanctus, Sanctus,
It's a great pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to be introduced by the Sanctus, I have to say, is far preferable to being introduced by the Kyrie. So, members of the Board of Trustees, members of the Carthage College and the greater Kenosha communities, President and Mrs. Swallow. It is indeed a pleasure to have been invited to speak to you today on this most happy occasion. I've known John Swallow for quite a while as an accomplished scholar, as a distinguished alumnus of the University of the South, as a respected teacher at Davidson College, an informed and supportive member of the Sewanee Board of Trustees and Board of Regents, and most recently and happily as a colleague. Having an opportunity to appoint a provost who at Sewanee, as at most institutions, is the chief operating officer of the university and also a president's right-hand man, I first thought of John, and happily for Sewanee, and also for the Swallow family, and now for Carthage College, persuaded him to cross over to the dark side of academic administration and return to alma mater. John proved remarkably adept, learned the finer points of everything from generally accepted accounting principles to how to frame a successful grant proposal, to Title IX, to intercollegiate athletics, to maintaining good relations with the local community, all done with the unflappable competence which I'm certain you have already witnessed in countless ways here. His is indeed an informed and articulate voice in the world of higher education and on the issues we are facing in these uncertain times. You've chosen well. And you have chosen a team, as has already been noted, and appropriately so. John and Cameron don't simply mouth the words of community. They live them. Carthage and Kenosha are blessed to have both John and Cameron here. And those blessings will abound in time to come. In thinking about what I might say to you today, something that might at least attempt to rise above the bromides and cliches that typically punctuate such occasions from such speakers as myself, I recalled a sermon that I heard preached last December on the first Sunday in Advent. That date, of course, is the beginning of the church year. It's a season of anticipation, and also, perhaps because Christmas looms a mere 4 weeks away, also a time of stress and anxiety. In any case, the preacher began by recounting her own attempt to get a jump on holiday shopping by visiting Amazon.com. Now, if you've done that yourselves, and I suspect most of you have, you'll recall that your first landing point is a homepage with a flashing question. That question is actually quite profound. What are you looking for? A most pertinent question for the season of Advent, and an equally pertinent question for a college community in search of new leadership. What are you looking for? Now, every institution at moments of leadership transition must necessarily ask and answer that question. And if the question is properly framed and answered honestly, beginning with the recognition that the successful candidate cannot likely walk on water, then the search will be successful and the candidate a good fit. So allow me, if you will, a few minutes of presumption to consider how Carthage College might have framed that question for itself. I'm guessing that your board and your search committee, being well aware of current trends in higher education, might have surfaced and even dared to name deep-seated concerns and perhaps even doubts about the future of the liberal arts and of liberal arts institutions. Much of what claims to pass for conventional wisdom today would warn us that higher education, and especially the undergraduate liberal arts college, find ourselves on a precipice. Now, if that is so, and that's a debatable proposition, that precipice is not unfamiliar territory. In 1971 essay entitled "The Death of the Liberal Arts College," historian James Axtell imagined an obituary written in 1862, which was the year Congress passed the Morrill Land Grant Act. And this is what he wrote. Washington, D.C., July 1862. The American Liberal Arts College died today after a prolonged illness. It was 226 years old. Born on the salty backwashes of the Charles River in Cambridge, shortly after the Massachusetts Bay Colony was founded, the scion of Puritan reform and Renaissance civility grew to sturdy usefulness in the colonial years by overseeing America's leaders prior to their war for independence. When the new nation emerged, however, demanding a larger and more expert citizenry, the college was unable to overcome its aristocratic origins and shortly contracted the disease that eventually led to its demise, arteriosclerosis. In the 1820s, when Jacksonian democracy was urging needed reforms on American institutions, the college's role in society contracted into a stance of pugnacious conservatism with the Yale Report of 1828. Even a number of its own reform-minded members could not edge it into the American mainstream of technological growth and democratic expansionism. And so today, after a recent cardiac arrest, its heart stopped on the floor of the House of Representatives just as the roll call for Justin Morrill's Land Grant Act had ended. The vote was 90 to 25. Sound familiar? Yet the report proved premature, as it was in 1876 with the founding of the Johns Hopkins University and the rise of the research institution, as it was in the years following World War II and the GI Bill, as it was in 1987 when the number of 18-year-olds began to decline, as it was when distance learning and the Western Governors University threatened to make bricks and mortar obsolete. Anyone here remember MOOCs? How many of your current students even recognize that acronym? Ask your elders, anyone over, say, 25, what that term means or meant. We've heard and continue to hear that our days are numbered unless we shape up. One need go no farther than a Google search to discover that this time, really, truly, this time, we're doomed. Well, maybe, or maybe not. To be sure, not all these threats were illusory. They were genuine. But amazing to report, the Liberal Arts College has proved remarkably resilient and remarkably adaptable. And there is no reason to suppose that with vision and energy and discipline, that resilience and that adaptability should not continue. You have chosen a leader who understands that, and who also understands those essential and enduring features of the college that have in good and threatening times shaped it, defined it, and reinvigorated it. And with John Swallow's leadership, Carthage College is more than equal to the task at hand. Now, of course, there are challenges. For example, surveys of freshman classes have in recent years revealed disturbing trends. Over the last decade, the percentage of freshmen spending 3 or more hours a week on social networking increased dramatically. And this is probably understated, this force which so militates subversively against community. To this might be added, under the general rubric of finance, the discovery that over the last 10 years, the percentage of students taking on $10,000 or more of debt has almost tripled. Almost 12% of entering students have major concerns about finance, and another 55% have some such concerns. The average indebtedness for graduates of liberal arts colleges currently stands at just under $30,000. And then there is that group identified in a study by the Pew Research Foundation several years ago as nuns. Not sisters wearing habits, but young people who do not themselves identify with any particular religious group, who find, as the report states, and I'm quoting, organized religion divisive, who believe that, again quoting, rational thought makes religion go out the window, whose, again quoting, religion is very personal. Or as one respondent put it, I believe in God, but in my own way. In my own way. Isn't that the mantra these days? I recently came across an essay that appeared last fall in The Atlantic. Not sure how I missed it then. If you did too, I recommend it, perhaps even as the common reading for your next entering class, because it's not about somebody else and somebody else's problems. It's about them. The author is Jean Twenge, and the essay is entitled, Have Smartphones Destroyed a Generation? The question is more than rhetorical. In describing the current generation of teenagers, including those now populating our campuses, the author observes the following. Theirs is a generation shaped by the smartphone and by the concomitant rise of social media. I call them the iGen. Born between 1995 and 2012, members of this generation are growing up with smartphones, have an Instagram account before they start high school, and don't remember a time before the internet. Here's the perfect environment for in my own way. And yet the author continues, for all their power to link kids day and night, social media also exacerbate the age-old teen concern about being left out. Today's teens may go to fewer parties and spend less time together in person, but when they do congregate, they document their hangouts relentlessly on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. And those not invited to come along are keenly aware of it. Accordingly, the number of teens who feel left out has reached all-time highs across age groups. Like the increase in loneliness, the upswing in being left out has been swift and significant. The columnist David Brooks put it this way in a column just last week. The big issue surrounding Facebook is not privacy, It's that Facebook and other social media companies are feeding this epidemic of loneliness and social isolation. It's not only that heavy social media users are sadder, it's not only that online life seems to heighten painful comparisons and both inflate and threaten the ego. It's that heavy users are much less likely to have contact with their proximate neighbors, to exchange favors, and to extend care. There's something big happening to the social structure of our neighborhoods. And so, as Twenge concludes, if you're going to give advice for a happy adolescence based on this survey, it would be straightforward. Put down the phone, turn off the laptop, and do something, anything, that doesn't involve a screen. What a litany of despair and woe. And I haven't even mentioned fundraising, endowment returns, tuition, or faculty and staff compensation. What are you looking for indeed? Who on earth would ever aspire to a college presidency at such a time as this? Well, some such aspirants, and your search committee knows who they are, don't care, because it's all about them. And it's all about the next rung on the career ladder, and it doesn't matter where, just find me a presidency. There it is again, in my own way. But some there be, echoing Ecclesiasticus, who have been quietly preparing for that moment when the man and the hour and the institution meet. These need to be persuaded because they're good at what they do and happy where they are. It isn't about them. It's never in my own way. Sometimes you of the valley may not recognize them, at least at first, though without introduction, they're known of each other. But if someday a personable youth happens in on your hospitality, and then that night you dream of a branch of crabapple blossoms dashed with rain, pursue that youth and treat him kindly. He hails from Arcady. John knows the reference. And you have found that person, that Arcadian, who is now your president, and who assumes that role because he has been called to serve and understands what service at this time and in this place means. The Lutheran tradition, at least as this poor Anglican reads it, educates for vocation, calling, to be prepared for a life of civic engagement and responsibility with faith at its core. Your president understands the liberal arts because he is the product of such an education and exemplifies what John Henry Cardinal Newman meant in writing that education is liberation from one-sidedness, and also, one might add, from present-sidedness. And from that understanding and that exemplification, he grasps, as your varied curriculum here grasps, what all the data show, but what nonetheless needs clearly and forcefully and repeatedly to be communicated. That, as a recent report by the American Association of Colleges and Universities notes, 3 out of 4 employers want new hires with precisely the sort of skills we teach: critical thinking, complex problem solving, as well as written and oral communication. That, as a recent publication of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences points out, over the last decade, liberal arts majors score an average 9% higher on the graduate management admission test. That, according to a National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities study. 78% of graduates of independent colleges complete their studies in 4 years. At public institutions, barely 60%. And as for the completion rates for virtual universities and for-profit entities, well, as Al Smith once said, you should look it up, hard as that information might be to find on their websites. You'll be surprised, maybe even appalled. Or perhaps for other reasons, having to do with the way the life of the mind is lived in places like Sewanee and Carthage. In a 1984 essay entitled, "What Else? The Loss of the University?" Wendell Berry writes, "The thing being made in a university is humanity, human beings in the fullest sense of the word, not just trained workers or knowledgeable citizens, but responsible heirs and members of human culture. The thing being made in a university, which now more than ever we need, is community, not isolation that leads to loneliness, not existence in the fantasy world of social media, not communication in the echo chamber of the like-minded in the closed world of Facebook, but community, where with all the flaws and all the shortcomings that we, as residents of a fallen world, we bear with our fellow human beings, the never-ending quest for wisdom that transcends knowledge. Community, where each of us, in Benjamin Franklin's words, doubts a little in our own infallibility. Community, where, as Daniel Webster so wisely put it, liberty exists in direct proportion to wholesome restraint. Community, where education takes place around the clock and in all venues, and where classroom and dining hall, laboratory and playing field and dormitory are places that have frequent and multiple points of intersection. These are not extravagant claims. They are what the Liberal Arts College has been about all along. To aspire to making good on these claims is to make a case that prospective students and their families, prospective faculty and staff colleagues, prospective donors, and all those who are and have been members of the extended family of this college will find compelling, and that the wider world of higher education will seek to emulate. Wall Street Journal published its millennial edition on New Year's Day 2000. Its pages contained essays about what the future might hold for every sector of American life. One such article had to do with the future of the undergraduate liberal arts college. The classroom of the future, it began, won't have much in common with today's version. For one thing, there probably won't be a classroom. The article went on to discuss the ways in which higher education would be changing, would necessarily be forced to change. But toward the end came a telling moment. Todd Nelson, who was then the president of Apollo Group, which started the University of Phoenix, that avatar of distance learning and unbounded classrooms and high technology, Todd Nelson asked where he planned to send his own children to college, responded that, well, of course, they'll attend a bricks and mortar institution. Why? Said this puzzled reporter. This was his direct response. There are important social and cultural things there that you don't get with us. Important social and cultural things, stuff. Human interaction, for one thing. Mentorship, for another. Conversation, discussion, debate. Lifelong friendships. Structure, community. none of them virtual or contrived or simulated, all of them actual, real, and perhaps even transforming. Nelson, of course, is referring to stuff, things, that take place outside the classroom as well as in, and that add comprehensiveness and coherence and value to the college experience. Time's ever-rolling stream, as the old hymn reminds us, bears all our years away. And yet the psalm on which that hymn is based also exhorts, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And so for all gathered here today, and those viewing from afar, may your days, however numerous they may turn out to be, lead you to seek wisdom, to love your neighbor as yourself, to find, as one of your early trustees put it, the better angels of your nature, and to discover that you caught your first glimpses of them here. And finally, John and Cameron, as the psalmist concludes, may the favor of the Lord our God rest upon you and establish the work of your hands, seeking truth, building strength, inspiring service together.
Maybe I just wasn't meant to have children.
Say that, of course you were meant to have children.
But how can I go about being a father with no one to mother my child?
Calm the child.
Yes, calm the child.
Look, tell him the story of how it all happened to be father and mother. You'll know what to do.
Alone.
Sometimes people leave you. Leave you alone. Do not let it grieve you. No one leaves for good. You are not alone. No one is alone. Hold him to the light now. Let him see the glow. Things will be all right now. Tell him what you know.
Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom, lived a young maiden,
Careful the things you say.
a sad young lad,
Children will listen.
a childless baker,
Careful the things you do. Children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be.
Thank you, President McCardle, for your wise and eloquent remarks about the powerful role a residential liberal arts college can play in the lives of students generation after generation. And Dr. Eduardo Garcia Novelli, Dr. James Ripley, and Carthage student musicians and actors, thank you for your magnificent performances. It was nearly 15 months ago that we set out in the search of Carthage's next president. We sought a visionary and entrepreneurial leader, a strategic thinker with strong character and a deep commitment to the liberal arts. Someone who would embrace and build upon the significant role Carthage plays in our larger community while recognizing and nurturing the creative and compelling ways our faculty and staff unleash the potential of students. Someone who could carry on Carthage's history of strong, bold decisions. We found all this and more in our new president. Dr. John Swallow was elected the 23rd president of Carthage College by unanimous vote of the Board of Trustees in May 2017. President Swallow was a scholar of mathematics and English literature with more than 2 decades of teaching and leadership experience at outstanding small liberal arts colleges. He came to Carthage from the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee, where he served as provost and executive vice president. He holds degrees in mathematics and English literature from Sewanee and 2 master's degrees and a PhD in mathematics from Yale. Since coming to Carthage in July, President Swallow has sought to connect Carthage's pioneering legacy to an even more promising future. It is now my pleasure to ask John Swallow to join me at the lectern for the installation. During the 171-year history of Carthage College, there have been 22 previous presidents, each leaving an indelible mark on the institution. We put into your hands, John, a great gift and a great responsibility. Generations of people have devoted their lives to this institution and its mission. The board is entrusting to you this heritage, this precious college, these strong and special people. The Carthage Presidential Medallion presented to you represents this history. It signifies the trust, confidence, and deep respect the Carthage Board of Trustees has in you. It is a reminder of the responsibility the college has entrusted to you. It is indeed my honor to install you as the 23rd president of Carthage College. On behalf of the entire Carthage community, it is a deep honor and an even greater delight to welcome John, Cameron, Bard, and Sophie Swallow into the Carthage family. Friends and colleagues, I present to you the 23rd President of Carthage College, Dr. John Swallow. Good luck. We'll be with y'all alone. Thank you.
Members of the board, faculty, staff, students, parents, alumni, and friends, I am so glad you are here to share in this ceremony of inauguration, this celebration of Carthage, past, present, and future. Elena, Leslie, and Hoyt, thank you so much for your words of welcome. I have enjoyed getting to know you and so many other students, faculty, staff, and alumni. I look forward to all of the good work that we will do together. And John, it means so much to me that you have offered your wisdom and perspective as part of this ceremony this afternoon. You and Bonnie will always serve as examples for Cameron and me. I am privileged, humbled, and honored to stand before you as Carthage's 23rd president. You have entrusted to me this office, and in turn, I pledge myself to execute its duties faithfully and with great enthusiasm. You have entrusted to me the administration of the college, and I dedicate myself to its purpose, which, as the Constitution states, is to provide opportunity through higher education for men and women to serve others in the world and the church. And you have entrusted to me the leadership of the community of people, some of whom could be with us today and others of whom are miles away, who support and encourage the progress of this institution, and I embrace this community. This community has welcomed Cameron and me so warmly, and that has been so important to us. The place I occupy at Carthage is, in countless ways, more than a job. It is a deep commitment that must spread to both members of a couple, requiring of each of them a special force and strength. Cameron, my partner of nearly 27 years, is a partner at Carthage College, too. Just as I have embraced this new adventure and this community, Cameron has as well, going on a tour with students in Kenosha by which they can welcome her and me to our new home. Cameron, would you stand so that this community can welcome you too? Even as we look forward to the future, we must remember how much we depend on our past. Let us acknowledge our deep gratitude to those who have stood before me and are present here to celebrate our future. Greg Woodward, Carthage's 22nd president, you brought a renewed sense of energy and creativity to our campus. Would you and Penny please stand and be recognized? And Greg Campbell, Carthage's 21st president. I have come to appreciate all you did to transform this college with your vision and will and commitment. Will you and Barbara please stand and be recognized? If any of us is able to see far, it is because we stand on the shoulders of those before us, and what broad shoulders these Carthaginians have. In the truest sense, a college is more than a campus, more than an endowment, more than a business, more even than a community of common purpose. It is a movement, and more still, not just a movement, but an expedition of astonishing magnitude, incorporating thousands upon thousands of lives, past, present, and future, students and parents, faculty and staff, alumni and friends, neighbors and partner organizations spanning decades, generations, and even centuries. We are here together on this expedition because we share a critical mission. We educate students to have an impact on the future. We diligently shape for our students a journey that requires them, like the characters we just met from Into the Woods, to contemplate carefully what they wish for and to reflect on what they're doing here. Their goals in many ways become the institution's goals as we work together to prepare students for careers that likely don't yet exist and future opportunities that we likely cannot fully predict. As a college, we must understand the world as it comes to us. We must continually ask, what does the world need, and what do our students need to lead lives of significance in that world? We are not always certain of the best path forward on this expedition, yet we must act. Careful the wish you make, we are warned. Careful the spell you cast. Careful the vision you set forth. Children will listen. It will make a difference. Expeditions such as ours are fraught with uncertainty and, of course, with the possibility of failure. Colleges, particularly private four-year colleges, face very challenging times. Demographics are not in our favor. Fewer high school students, particularly in the Midwest, will be entering four-year colleges in the years to come. Colleges are competing among one another as rarely before. Nor are economic forces in our favor. Colleges' ability to raise tuition is constrained, as it should be. The more expensive colleges become, the fewer families can consider the sort of education they provide. And there's more still. Colleges work within an American society that has begun to distrust colleges, just as trust in many of our society's institutions has fallen. But if the expedition is difficult, it is because it has never been so important. You know this. If you say, as Anne Wagner Bungard, a dear friend of Carthage, said to me recently, President, with our American society and the larger world so buffeted by constant change, to say nothing of violence, theft, sexual harassment, anger, and the lack of civility and courtesy, students need to confront questions like, what do I really value? Are the values that I claim to hold really worthwhile? Are the values that I claim to hold permanent or transitory? If you said that, I would say you are right. Colleges must educate not only for skills and capacities, but for meaning and purpose, for vocation in the deepest sense. If you say, as Bishop Paul Erickson said to me, President, at a moment like this, we need to educate people for curiosity and courage and compassion, I would say, you are right. Colleges must develop in students curiosity to learn and know the truth. Colleges must develop in students courage to take up difficult topics, to say what must be said, and to act. Colleges must develop in students compassion to recognize the pain that others feel and to understand their thoughts. Yes, a college is an expedition of risk where the return is anything but guaranteed. But it is also an expedition of purpose needed by the world that surrounds us as much as ever before. And so, among the many colleges in this country, among the many expeditions in the future, in which should we invest ourselves? Which would have the best chance of success? We might look first to a residential liberal arts college. In a time of increasing individualism, a residential college, offers the best hope to educate students to learn how to interact, to confront difficult topics together, and to be able to work productively with others. We might next look for a college with a religious heritage and identity. Colleges with a religious affiliation are often unafraid to express values even as they debate them. Students need both the challenge to values and the assertion of values. If we are looking for our expedition to be successful, we might look for a college with a history of facing challenges boldly. Many colleges, founded in the 19th century in the wilderness, turned out to later not to be well situated for the future. And while place is important, sometimes changing place is important too. A college that showed the foresight and the fortitude to move some 50 years ago would be just such a college. We might look for a college that shows, as part of that move, a community that understands how education affects the economy and vice versa. People whose grandparents and great-grandparents saw in their region one of the fastest growing areas of the country and invited that college in because they knew the importance of a well-educated workforce. A community that understands what it means to have lost industries and jobs, but nevertheless has not lost hope. Instead, through effective political leadership, a community that developed its downtown, replacing an auto plant with residential housing, museums, and an open-air market, and is already at work thinking of how to redevelop a second brownfield site. If we are looking for our expedition to be successful, we might look for a college that has not only faced its own bold challenges, but finds inspiration for boldness in a neighboring community to the north. H.F. Johnson, Jr., a leader in Racine, proposed building for the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York a golden circular structure to show a film about peace. His staff were doubtful. But he rebuffed them, saying simply, "Gentlemen, some decisions are only for the brave." That same community formed a bold foundation, a foundation which brought national leaders to Racine for discussions, and out of those discussions emerged plans for no less than the National Endowment for the Arts and National Public Radio. If we are looking for our expedition to succeed in a diverse future, we might look for a college that through its long history has welcomed students that other schools would not enroll. A college that enrolled women in 1870 and its first black student in 1946. A college that, in doing so, exemplifies the best of faith traditions. That, as Bishop Wayne Miller would put it, know that all creatures are endowed by their Creator with a value and dignity that people are called to protect and defend. If we are looking for an expedition that can succeed when resources are constrained, we might look for a college that has been a bold steward of its resources, spending far less on investment management than others, while producing percentage endowment returns that exceeded Harvard's. And if we are looking for an expedition with a history of success, we might gravitate toward a college with a pioneering tradition in the arts, in the sciences, and in athletics. One that founded the second oldest touring choir in the country, and whose theater programs win national awards. One where 20 of 24 sports teams have won conference championships. We might also look for a college that has built a pipeline to prestigious fellowships, one that regularly produces more U.S. Fulbright recipients than any other institution in the state of Wisconsin. By now, you know where I'm going. The college that I have described is one that has become very precious to me in a very short time, as it is already to you. There is something unusual here at Carthage College in Kenosha in southeastern Wisconsin. Our students are committed not just to coursework in their majors, but to passions well outside their fields of study and to activities outside of class because all of these things are part of their journey. The devotion of our faculty and staff ensures that no student will make that journey alone. Those who work at Carthage give of themselves more than I have ever seen. Our graduates are known for rolling up their sleeves and getting things done and not waiting for the world to come to them. How will this unusual college in this unusual place look toward the future? We will seek new programs and new opportunities to express our history and build on our extraordinary legacy. We will go into the woods and explore the unknown, and we will not be afraid. We will deliberate nimbly, we will experiment boldly, and we will work together with integrity and trust, and we will act. We will not think in terms of or, but in terms of and. For what the world needs now is less or and more and. And that has been Carthage's nature from the very beginning. Art and science, mathematics and music, pre-professional and liberal arts, classical foundations and career preparation. We will ensure that every student graduating from Carthage College is fully capable for the challenges ahead of them in their own lives and in the work that they will do. Yes, students are on individual journeys, and they must develop their individual skills and capacities as individuals. But college is not just about the private good of an individual's experience preparing for an individual lifetime. It is a public good as well. The work of society occurs in organizations in which people come together to solve problems creatively, carefully, and compassionately. We will prepare students not only for their lifetimes, but for the lifetimes of all those with whom they come into contact. This expedition, this journey is a worthwhile one. If anywhere the world's needs can be met, it is here. If by anyone, it is by us. If by any college, by this one. You are witnesses here in this chapel and in this ceremony to my dedication to this expedition and its success. Join me. The world is waiting, and there is so much good we can do. Thank you.
At the end of the benediction, we ask that you remain standing for the recessional that will immediately follow. Let us pray. Most gracious God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, because you love us beyond anything we can fathom, because you form us in the wonder of the universe as the stars dance above, because you endow us with life and breath within the span of our time, we are here and we are yours. These are holy days, and we are your holy people, set apart by you for the sake of the world you love. As we celebrate the mission and ministry of Carthage College and of President Swallow on his inauguration, we are bold to seek your blessing now as we go forth from this moment. Grant us servant hearts each day, especially when we may feel tempted to make things about us, our needs, our desires. Grant us curious minds each day, especially when we may be quick to make judgments, thus missing to see all that you have for us. Grant us courageous hearts each day, especially when we may prefer to retreat rather than step forward in love. Grant us compassionate spirits, especially when the pain and tragedy of the world may draw us toward hardness of heart. May we live into all that you have for us, and may your world and each person in it have an opportunity to see your light and your love for them through how we speak and act each day. Yes, Lord, we ask for all of this because we cannot do it without you, but with you we can do the work of your kingdom, shining the light of hope and healing, justice and mercy, peace and salvation. For we pray in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who sends us forth. Amen.